Hey everyone, this is Tankenstein coming to you live and direct from Illinois, the center of everywhere, to bring to you today your complete and comprehensive weak spot guide for the T-34 tank. I will be going over quite a bit in this video, including showing the weak spots of several different variants of the T-34 tank, including the base T-34, the STZ, and the T-34 85E, the best types of ammo to use against them, and the tactics that will allow you to win. Please subscribe for more content. That said, let's get into it. So, to start, the T-34 is one of the most storied tanks in history, and as such, holds a very special place in War Thunder. It also happens to be one of the most common tanks that you will see in War Thunder, being absolutely everywhere in matches from between 3 and 7 BR. As such, they are an incredibly important tank to know how to beat and also how to play. Additionally, they are one of the first adopters of sloped armor, which is an incredibly powerful mechanic in tank warfare. It is incredibly difficult to counter, especially at low BRs. So let's start with the most basic of basic T-34s, and that's the T-34 in 1940. This is going to be the tank that you see most often in the game, probably at BR 3.3. It's a very, very popular tank, and it has just good overall stats. 45 millimeters of hull armor all the way around, except for the rear of the hull. 45 millimeters of turret armor all the way around. Decent gun, good speed, so on and so forth. This is one of the tanks that you're going to really just see everywhere. With the exception of the T-34 prototype, which is a very limited edition tank, this is probably going to be your lowest BR tank that you're going to see in the T-34 line. That being said, this 45 millimeters of hull armor looks like it's actually a pretty easy shot to make through, but it's not because of how highly sloped it is. And I'll just kind of show you right here exactly what you can expect. So a very common tank to use against this is going to be the Panzer 3L. And as you can see, just right off the bat, even at 500 millimeters or 500 meters, you're not going to shoot through this. It's just a lot of sloping, which deflects or even just blows up the round before it can do anything. And you're getting on the frontal armor anywhere between around 100 millimeters of armor pen all the way up through around 120 to 125 or armor protection. Huge amounts of armor protection. There are some weak spots, like here it's just a flat surface, but it's not going to be a gimme shot all the time. And you do also have a weak spot around the driver's hatch, but this is kind of like right where the driver's hatch closes. And again, this is not a gimme shot at all. You have to basically shoot right through it, and I wouldn't put any money on it. So that being said, insofar as weak spots are concerned, you're going to want to shoot more or less kind of right where the the frontal glacis and the lower glacis meet the upper and the lower glacis. And right where it curves is probably about one of the flattest spots on the front. You only have about a 33-degree angle of attack. If you are coming at this flat on, you should be able to shoot through it fairly easily. And again, you are not going to be able to shoot through the front of the turret or the front of the hull. However, you can shoot through just underneath where the turret is, and that's a fairly weak spot, and it also gives you a really good chance of being able to destroy the crew members down here. But better yet, you will want to shoot to the right of the turret. It's a really, really good shot to make. Just because there is the machine gun on this side of the turret, and when I say the right, I mean the right when you're facing it. If you're looking this way, obviously this is the right and this is the smaller side, so you do not want to shoot this all the time. If it's the only shot you have, it's not a bad shot to make, and we'll have about equal results as shooting on the right. It's just easier because there's less mantlet involved here, and the more mantlet that you have involved, the worse chance of a good shot that you're going to have. And one other very important thing to note here, if you're just kind of looking at this and you say, oh, it's 112 millimeters of armor protection, I can defeat that with my APCR. No, you can't. So as you can see here, it's around 112, let's say 115 millimeters of armor protection, right? And that's against the Panzer III, which has approximately, 106 millimeters at best. You are not going to want to go by that, by the way. 0 degrees, 10 meters. That is a fairy tale. More likely than not, you're going to be at like 500 meters and like 15 degrees or something. So you can just cut that down by like 2/3. Whatever like your best case scenario armor pen is, you're never going to reach that unless for whatever reason there's a tank that's smoked out and you just so happen to hit it right on its flat sides or something. It's just not going to happen. So again, you have around 115 millimeters of armor pen right here. So you might think, okay, my APCR can shoot right through it. No, it can't. Right when you hit the APCR, it goes all the way up to around 160 millimeters of armor pen, which is 45 millimeters stronger of armor protection compared to the regular APC ammo. And the reason being is because APCR just is not very good. It normalizes very poorly against this sort of armor, against sloped armor. Sloped armor is much less effective against just regular shells. So APCR is just going to be something that you're going to use against flat-faced tanks, kind of like a Tiger 1 and other tanks like that. And if you do happen to have an APCR round and you decide to shoot through it, so you can see there's 47 millimeters of armor pen right there, or that's about how much protection the turret gives you against APCR. It's more or less the same against APC ammo. So just keep that in mind, and the APCR does a whole lot less damage once it's in because it does not have the explosive filler. So this all said, the next tank I'm going to show you is going to be the T-34 STZ, and the reason being is because it has this frontal plate right here, which is a really powerful plate. It's 15 millimeters of extra armor pen, or extra armor protection, but when you're dealing with slopes this steep, that is a ton. So one common tank that you're going to face here, and also the 100 millimeters of protection right down here, which is completely ridiculous. But one of the most common tanks you're going to face is going to be, I'll just get into rank 3, it's going to be the Panzer 4G. It has 137 millimeters of armor pen at best with the Panzergranat 39. So more or less everything on the front here is going to be kind of iffy, if not completely off limits. Do not shoot the driver's hatch. You might be able to shoot through the little the machine gun port here on the sides, and if you do, that's a really good shot, but more likely than not, no, it's just a very inconsistent shot. And again, more or less everything here on the frontal armor plate is a no-go. You will, however, be able to shoot right underneath where the tow hooks are and just destroy crew members, and also right underneath where the armor plate is, but over top where the bottom armor plate is. So basically right between where the top armor plate is and also where it meets and just before it meets the lower glacis, that's where you're going to want to shoot. It's a heck of a good shot to make. It's going to get you kills all the time. There's also a small keyhole right here at the top of the armor, which arguably might be about your best shot because it shoots right into the tank and blows up right between all the crew members, and you should be able to get some really good kills from that, but it's a kind of small shot. Use it at your own risk. I wouldn't really recommend it all the time, but if you're close enough and the tank is not moving, definitely go ahead and try to make it. You can also shoot at the sides of the turret. This is probably always going to be your gimme shot. The size of the turret the size of the front of the turret of any T-34 is going to be an easy shot, and just really at any BR you can penetrate them very easily, and you should be able to knock out crew members fairly easily. And really, this goes for all T-34s. I'll just say this here. Side shots are going to be your best shots to make, pretty much, just because they're going to be gimme kill shots. Side armor on any T-34 is pretty weak, except for the T-34E, if I'm not mistaken. So you're going to want to shoot it, if you can, just underneath where the turret meets the hull. This is going to be an awesome shot every time. If you shoot where the turret is, like where the cannon is, there's a good chance that the cannon breech could just absorb the shot and save half the crew or even the entire crew. Try not to shoot the back of the tank, being that it's so big and the engine is so sturdy, so stout. It's just going to protect the tank crew. Rather, if you have a back shot, try to shoot the back of the turret, and you should be able to disable the gunner and the loader, which will really make the rest of killing the tank very easy. And at that point, if you want, maybe shoot the back. You can set this thing on fire. So finally, I'll just go over the T-34E, and the reason being I'm going over the T-34-85E, I mean to say, over the T-34-85 DST or any of the other big caliber T-34s is because this has a 5-member crew as opposed to a 4, and thus it's a tougher kill to make. This has a separate gunner and commander, whereas most other T-34s just have a gunner that is a commander. So yeah, it's a slightly more difficult shot to make. As you can see here, it has 90 millimeters of armor protection at the front of the turret, 75 side, 52 rear. So what I'll do is I'll just kind of put you up against the Panther A, which is one of the most common tanks you're going to see in the game. It's a very popular tank. And at this rank, 45 millimeters of armor protection is not going to save you from much, even though it is highly sloped. It's still sitting at around 100 millimeters of armor protection. So really the entire front here, except for the machine gun port. The machine gun port, for the most part, is now at this point a weak point. But also do not shoot the driver's hatch, being that that is still a little bit stubborn. You can try to if you want, but I just wouldn't aim for it. Pretty much anything on the front of the hull is game at this BR. You're going to be facing really tanks from 145, 150 millimeters of armor pen plus, and these right here, I wouldn't shoot where the tracks are. If you're kind of on the border of it, if you know that your tank really does not have great armor pen, or if you're at a range, try not to shoot this. You still have a ton of spots to shoot at the front of the hull. But additionally, you can shoot at the sides of the turret. It's a much, much larger turret. And at these BRs, you're typically going to have a much higher amount of TNT equivalent in your ammo. Not all the time, as you can see here with the Panzer Granate 39, 42. It's just not always going to be that way. But it is something that you can certainly do. So sides of the turret are definitely an option. Most shots you're going to get around 100 millimeters of armor protection, give or take, depending on the angle, versus 105, 110 on the frontal turret or the frontal hull. And one other thing that you do want to note is that if you are at a high enough angle, just try not to shoot the front of the turret or the front of the hull. You're not going to be able to shoot through it with a lot of 5.7 BR vehicles. The Panther has a ridiculously high penetrating gun, especially for 5.7, and just will not be able to go through that. However, if you are at that angle, just shoot through the sides. It's, again, right underneath where the turret meets the hull, perfect shot. And at the back here, because there is so much ammo stored at the back of the turret, you should be able to get an ammo rack. So finally, I'll just go over the types of ammo that you want to use against the T-34, all variants, and also the tactics that you'll want to use, being that they are pretty much going to be the same exact fight the whole way through, except a little bit tougher each time. So the ammo that you'll want to use is the APHE, APCBC, HEFS, which is very rare, but you will want to use that if you have a tough time shooting through the front of the hull armor. It's just really, really good when it comes to normalization, and also heat ammo, which is also pretty good when it comes to normalization of ammo shells. The type of ammo that you will want to stay away from at all costs, and this goes for any highly sloped vehicle, is the APCR ammo, or the Armor Piercing Composite Rigid ammo. The relatively high slope on the T-34s will bounce all but the most powerful APCR rounds. Even if they do get through, they will likely do comparatively little damage once they get in compared to an explosive-filled round. Save APCR ammo for all just really the most flat and thick surfaces, like the front of a Tiger 1 hull, like I had mentioned before. And finally, when it comes to the tactics that you want to use against this, being that this is a very relatively quick vehicle, it goes 55 kilometers per hour in realistic, and you could say the same about almost all T-34s, between 40, 45 kilometers per hour and around 55 or so. You will want to shoot it at the side. The frontal hull armor is just not going to be an always shot, especially if they're kind of coming at you from an angle. It's just, there's a fair enough shot that if you're at a distance or whatever the case may be, you might not be able to do it. Shoot the sides of the turret, as I mentioned before. But again, these guys are going to be flanking you all the time. If you cannot get a nice turret or a nice hull armor shot or a side of the turret shot, just shoot at the treads. Try to destroy the tracks at all costs if, for whatever reason, you cannot shoot any other part of this tank. Once this thing's a sitting duck, you take away a lot of its power of mobility, and that's where it gets a ton of power from. Again, try not to shoot the back of it. It's just not going to serve you much good. It might set on fire, but there's just too much going on back here where it's just going to defend the rest of the crew. So that being said, tell me what you guys think. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, learned a lot from it. I know that a lot of new players go through T-34 teething pains. I did, everyone does, the Germans did in World War II. So either way, please remember, like, comment, subscribe. But without further ado, I'm heading off for the night. Hope you guys had a great day, great night, great whatever it is you're doing. and I will see you all on the other side. Take care, everyone.